Hi guys, this is Tablet-News.com and I'm here with the ASUS FonePad 7, the FE375 version. I'm going to call it the new FonePad. This one is a 64-bit tablet, it's also a dual SIM tablet and a 3G tablet. We received the first ASUS FonePad 7 about a year ago and we reviewed it, and now it's time for the new ASUS FonePad 7 to arrive. Once again, the FE375CG model. It was announced at the end of July. It's a 7-inch dual SIM slate and the price tag should be around $177, so it's affordable. It has Intel inside and it's actually the first dual SIM tablet that we ever tested here at Tablet-News.com. The design, well, this tablet comes in black, red, white or gold. We have the white version. As you can see, it measures 9.8 millimeters in thickness. It's quite rounded, as you can well see, and it weighs 299 grams. It has a case made of matte plastic. It's also pretty massive, but that won't bother you. And it's certainly a change, the plastic, because the first FonePad 7 had metal for the case. This model is also 0.7 millimeters thinner than its predecessor. It's also 2 millimeters shorter in length, and it's also 11 millimeters less wide, which is pretty impressive. Finally, it's 29 grams lighter, so it's a total evolution as far as the design goes from its predecessor. On the front side, we have the earpiece, front camera and sensors here. At the bottom we have the other speakers, so those two are stereo speakers, with this one serving as the earpiece. Moving at the back, we find the main camera, and at the top we find the microSD port used for charging, while at the bottom there is the audio jack and the microphone. On the left side we got a lid, and you need nails to open it up. Here we go. Under the lid there are two SIM slots and one microSD card slot. Those are actually micro SIM slots, just in case you were wondering. Let's try to put this lid back on properly, if possible. Okay, to make the body more compact. And on the right side we have the on-off button and volume buttons. At first you will find them pretty hard. You're used to searching for them here somewhere. They're a bit more at the back, but you'll get used to that pretty fast. The screen may be a bit of a fingerprint magnet, in spite of the fact it has a special coating against that. However, I would have to say that overall, for this price, below $200, the design is quite okay. It's an utilitarian design, if I can say that. On the hardware side, we get an IPS LCD screen. This one is a 7-incher and its resolution is 1280 over 800 pixels. Inside the slate we find the Intel Atom CPU. It's an Intel Atom Z3560. It's a quad-core 64-bit unit that has been clocked at 1.83 GHz. We also get 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB or 16 GB of storage, depending on the version you buy, plus an extra 5 GB of ASUS web storage in the cloud. That microSD card slot you saw earlier is able to support up to 64 GB of extra storage. And the cameras, well, we have a 2 megapixel shooter here at the front and we have a 5 megapixel shooter here at the back. We got those stereo speakers once again, and on the connectivity side we're pretty much covered with HSPA+, 42 MB/s download, dual SIM slots, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0, Miracast, GPS and GLONASS. Other features include an accelerometer, proximity sensor. We also got an ambient light sensor and a compass. The battery that we got here is a lithium polymer unit with a 15 Wh capacity, and on paper ASUS promises us 10.5 hours of usage. In our test with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, we achieved 7 hours and 52 minutes. That's the bulk time we got, 7 hours and 52 minutes of continuous HD video playback, and this is a step up actually. The first FonePad 7 offered us about 5 hours of playback on a 16 Wh unit, so we've evolved from 5 to almost 8 hours of playback. I would say that we're doing quite fine. We're actually pretty close to a premium device from the end of last year, the LG G-Pad 8.3, that has a price that's almost double compared to this model, and its battery is a bit lower. The charging time is a bit long for this slate. It's about 3 hours and 25 minutes, which is kind of long. If you access the settings area, you'll find two options related to battery. First of all, battery with percentage, usage and all that. As you can see, I've easily achieved a day and 1 hour of usage with some gaming, some browsing and other things like that. And then we got power management. Here you can either see the power consumption table with everything that used up your battery, and finally the power saver options. There are 3 modes here, so if you activate it, we got the ultra saving mode. This one maximizes the battery life by disconnecting the connectivity in standby mode. Then we got the optimized mode. Well, what this one does is that it extends battery life and always keeps the network connection. And then we got the customized mode, this one here, that actually allows you to customize it as the name says. So you can set brightness for certain activities like reading emails, reading books, watching videos, listening to music. Each of them has a brightness meter right next to them, so you can customize that brightness. You can also set each activity for normal usage mode or power saving mode, and there's a special option for IM and other push notifications. So this is it. This is the power saving. Overall, I would say that the battery experience is okay, however the charging is quite long. Okay, now on the audio side, we have this music player right here. Very minimalistic, very compact. We have 2 speakers, these 2 stereo speakers at the front, one here and one here. And let's actually listen to a tune. Okay, now some conclusions. First of all, the experience is pretty loud, it's clear, we have a good bass and the sound is warm, so everything is good. And there's also a bit of an equalizer here. Here we go. It's the stock one from Android with the usual genre related settings, with the usual channels to custom, bass boost and surround sound if you got headphones to play with. Other than that, you should know that you can stream music via Wi-Fi, and you can also search for a media server nearby as shown by these options here. As I said, I'm pretty pleased with the speakers, their volume, their clarity and everything that goes with them, and we used the decibel meter to actually test the values of these speakers. We achieved 80.6 decibels, which is not very loud. However, in real life I was pretty impressed by the speakers in spite of the decibel meter not showing huge values. There's also that famous ASUS Audio Wizard app, so if you start playing your song, you'll actually feel this app in action. As you just saw, once you start using the Audio Wizard, there are a few presets like power saving, music, movie, recording, gaming and speech. Each of them changes the tone of the music and the more natural sounding ability. So if you want voice, it will focus on the voice. If you want music, as you just heard, it makes the sound louder. If you want games, it has a certain sound that's suited to games and all that. Overall, I would have to say I'm pretty pleased with those 2 speakers, and now we move forward to the aspect called video and screen. Okay, so first things first, we got a sample here, the video sample that we always use in reviews. This is an IPS LCD screen, a 7-incher with a 1280 over 800 pixel resolution, 10-finger multi-touch, and I would say its brightness is okay for games and movies. Okay, so let's start that video off. Here we go. This is it, and we got wide viewing angles. That's what I have to say right from the start. Those are the wide viewing angles I'm referring to, typical for an IPS screen. The image is crisp, there's a slight bit of oversaturation going on. The colors are maybe a bit too vivid, but as I said, pretty crisp, pretty bright. The pixels are the RGB stripe kind. And now let's see the brightness on paper, so to say, using our lux meter. And that was a bit of lag that just happened here. Okay, here we go. These are the pixels under the microscope, as I said, RGB stripe, and our lux meter showed 266 lux units. It's only okay, it's not very bright, only okay. We also have a bunch of settings specifically tailored for the visual experience. We have to go to the settings area, access display, and for example we got reading mode that has two sub options. First of all, we got the image and text mode, that's balanced settings for both images and texts, and this one is a bit of a more gentle white, and text only mode, there's a bit more yellowish and more suited for an e-reading experience. Then there's the other customization option for the screen. It's a special app that we saw on many ASUS devices, and it's called Splendid. It's ASUS Splendid and allows to customize the temperature of the screen. There's a special vivid mode, and then you can tweak color temperature to make it cooler or warmer depending on your preferences. Then there's the enhancement. You can enhance the hue, focus on a certain hue of the screen, and you can also play with the slider for saturation. This is total oversaturation, and this is less saturation. Or you can reset and go to the default values. Okay, and when you're done, that's pretty much it. I have to say that the display is okay for the casual movie watcher and the gamer, but as I said, it could be just a slightly bit brighter. Okay, now let's talk about the camera. So we have a 5 megapixel back camera and a 2 megapixel front camera, but I'm going to focus on the back camera. Here's the castle, and in case you're wondering what's the deal with this interface, if you ever saw a Tablet News review before for a brand new ASUS device, this is the Zen UI and its customizations. On the left side there is the front camera shortcut, there's the effects area with the options like grayscale, negative, sepia, edge detect, hue, lomo, pixelize and cartoon, and pencil. Then there are the settings, a ton of them actually, for the photo taking, picture taking, video taking, and finally the options related to smart brightness or keys or stuff like that. And then finally on the right side we have a shortcut to the gallery, we have the shutter button and a turbo option, we have the zoom, and we have the video capture button, and finally the modes. Now let's analyze each and every one of them, because believe me, there's a ton, and I do mean a ton of settings. So here we go. We got white balance with a few sub settings, ISO going up to 800, exposure value, optimization, auto on or off, camera resolution. You can either take 5 megapixel shots in 4:3 or 4 megapixel shots in 16:9. We got anti-shake, auto or off, and image quality fine or standard. There is a touch shutter option, self timer, burst that can be fast, slow or off, and finally there's focus and exposure with smart autofocus or continuous or infinity. There's touch, auto exposure and phase detection. And moving on to video, we got yet again white balance, exposure, video quality. It can be Full HD, 720p or 480p, video stabilization, touch auto exposure, and in the section called others we have smart brightness, guidelines, info, review duration, burst review, camera sound, location services, anti-flicker, power saving mode, set volume keys, a shutter button, tutorial, and that's pretty much it. So as I said, a ton of stuff to check out here. As I said, on the right side there are these modes here. You can either take a shot normally like this, or try a burst shot by keeping this pressed, and it's a pretty slow burst experience. With a slight bit of lag apparently. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so let's go back and let's try again. You can either take that burst mode normally and get rid of the pictures, or keep them if you want to, or you can select this one here and activate the turbo mode that takes them much faster. And that's how burst is done. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, I'm deselecting this, and this is the video capture button. And now I want to talk about these modes here. So we got auto, that pretty much speaks for itself. We got time rewind, that takes a few shots. As you can see right here, you can take a bunch of shots and you can select which one to pick, so you can catch a person sneezing or running, and you can use this timeline here to go forward or backward in time to catch a cat sneezing, jumping, or a kid doing something funny, and that's pretty much it. Okay, now the other modes, we have HDR, that you already know, panorama, night, selfie. This one is a selfie option that actually involves the back camera. You can select a number of faces and a few more options. Then we got depth of field that I actually tested. It's kind of nice. You focus on an object and then you create blur behind it to emphasize what's in the foreground. Then we have smart remove, that's basically an eraser removing unwanted subjects from the picture. Then we got all smiles. You'll take about 5 shots and you'll only keep the ones with the smiles on. Finally, beautification and GIF animation that speak for themselves. And then in the video option area, we have auto and time-lapse. And finally, there's something called party link here, allowing you to connect to nearby devices and share pictures automatically. Okay, so now let's discuss other options related to this camera. Let me bring back the castle and actually take a picture using it. So here we go, here is the castle again. And this time I'm actually going to take a shot, so you can see the picture taking abilities of the device. The resolution is set at 5 megapixels. We're focusing, and this is it. Now let's check out the results. It's not the fastest camera in the world, you probably figured that out, but the level of detail isn't half bad when you actually allow it to focus properly. Also, both the focus and the picture taking are not very fast, they're actually kind of slow. I would have to say that close-ups are pretty decent. And let's actually have a look at the gallery and see the pictures we've taken using this tablet. I have to warn you, there is not many of them, since it's a 7-inch tablet and people won't bother taking many shots with such slates. Here we go. This one is taken using depth of field. You can see that the background has been blurred, but the foreground has been highlighted. Then we got these shots here. As you can see, the colors are a bit washed out, only a bit. But if you really try and focus and get a nice close-up, you can come up with an image like this. Many of the pictures are quite blurry and noisy. As I said again, you have to be patient, really focus, and then you can trigger a pretty nice picture. I also taken a video, just for curiosity's sake, to see if the Full HD video actually looks nice or not. So this is it. This is the Full HD video and I was totally underwhelmed, I have to be honest. There's focus loss, there's blur, there's not a good quality, and I was expecting a bit more. Of course, since this is a tablet, we didn't have huge expectations, and while the pictures were pretty good, the video was not good even by the lower standards of cameras. If you want to do some editing, you can pick a picture, press that button, and the usual options like soften skin, bake eyes, blush, or thin cheeks will appear. Those ones are used to customize your face or people's faces. Then you have filters like vintage, black and white, bleach, instant, latte, blue, litho, snow, or casting. We got frames. We got options like crop, straighten, rotate, or mirror, or draw. And finally we have auto color, exposure, vignette, contrast, shadows, highlights, vibrance, sharpness, negative edges, and posterize. So there is a ton of customization you can apply to your pics. Moving further, as I said, the picture taking can be decent if you have the patience to focus and trigger a nice close-up, but the video taking is disappointing. The temperature achieved by this tablet after playing 15 minutes of games is 41.8 degrees Celsius, and that's after 15 minutes of Riptide GP2. It's slightly overheated, but not exaggerated. Now let's see how the browser is doing. So this is the web browser, standard ASUS.com site, and now let's try to load Tablet-News.com. By the way, this is the virtual keyboard. It's very well spaced, quite comfy. It has a numeric row, so it has everything going for it. The browser is pretty fast, I have to say. It's loading fast, looks nice on the screen, pretty crisp, so no objection here and no complaints. Now let's turn it in landscape. And that's pretty much the browsing experience in a nutshell. Now let's discuss about the benchmarks. You're probably curious about the models I picked to compare this new FonePad 7 with. Okay, so we have everything from Quadrant to Antutu to 3D Mark and such. Okay, so I decided to compare the new ASUS FonePad 7 with the old FonePad 7 to show you the evolution, and also to the LG G-Pad 8.3. I know it's in a higher price range, but you'll be surprised that it gets beaten by this tablet. And finally to the iPad mini Retina for the sake of two 64-bit CPU tablets battling it out. So in Quadrant we scored 17,167 with the new FonePad 7, the old one only scored 2,900, and the LG G-Pad scored 12,000, so we beat them both. In Antutu, very good score, 32,992, the old FonePad 7 scored 9,000, and the LG G-Pad 8.3 21,000, we beat them again. Nenamark 2, 59.9 frames per second, the old FonePad didn't get this test, and the LG G-Pad 8.3 scored 59.2 frames per second, so we beat it again. Next up, in Velamo, very good score, 2981 in the Chrome test. Meanwhile, the LG G-Pad 8.3 scored 2505, so we beat it by about 400 points. This is 3D Mark. Here we scored 17,785, while the old FonePad 7 scored a measly 2,200, and the LG G-Pad 8.3 now 9,456. And meanwhile, the iPad mini Retina scores 14,000 points, so we beat it. This model, below $200, manages to beat the iPad mini Retina in 3D Mark, which is a pretty good performance. And now, Geekbench 3, we got 750 in the single core test and 2148 in the multi-core, while the iPad mini Retina gets a bit higher scores, 1347 and 2525. So it beat us at least in one test. Next up, GFX, yet again a good score, 29.4 frames per second in the T-Rex off-screen test, and we're actually better than the iPad mini Retina that scored 26 frames per second. Finally, there is the connectivity speed, 23 megapixel in download and 19 in upload, while the iPad mini Retina scores 19 in download, for example. We move forward. In Browser Mark 2.1 we have 1214, and this is a pretty high score. Most of the devices I've tested lately don't even pass the 1000 mark. Finally, SunSpider, the lower the better, 676 ms. As I said, the lower the better. The iPad mini Retina scores 425, so it beats us, but not by a huge margin. Those are very good results. This model has no lag, aside from the moment of stutter you saw earlier, and it also manages to run most of the new games, including Dead Trigger 2, the latest Crazy Taxi, FIFA 14, Asphalt 8, and whatever Need for Speed title you can imagine. So let's check out the title Dead Trigger 2 and see how it's handled by this tablet. This is sort of a benchmark game. Back in the day, Dead Trigger 1 was a bit of a benchmark, but now Dead Trigger 2 is the new benchmark, because it has high-end graphics and it's used to test the best of the best devices. So we're waiting for it to load. Here we are in the home base. Okay, we're still in the tutorial part. Still waiting. We got painkillers now. Let's go to the world, pick a mission, and start shooting. Okay, enough with the cutscene already. Let's go to the USA campaign and maybe pick this one here. And finally, check out the graphics on this tablet. It's a 64-bit tablet, as I said earlier, and you just saw that the benchmark scores were pretty impressive. Now let's see some gameplay action. Okay, here we go.
What do we have here?
The usual cutscene, and we should be off to the action anytime soon. This one is a chase mission. So we have zombies in our path.
Nice.
That was a headshot. Yet another headshot. And we still have to chase that guy. Anyway, you get the idea. The graphics are pretty good. The game doesn't lag. It only takes a bit of a while to load up before each mission. Okay, so this is the Trigger 2. It runs just fine on this tablet, and as I said, other games like FIFA 14 and Asphalt 8 run without problems. Now, as far as the phone call features are concerned, here we go. This is the phone area, and as you probably know already, this one is a dual SIM tablet, and it comes with features like smart dial, speed dial. You can record calls, and there are hidden number for next call, block list, smart search language, delete call log, dual SIM card settings, and all sorts of settings you like for your phone calling. Speaking of which, the calls are loud and clear, and the signal is good for both SIMs. Okay, now let's analyze the software aspect on this device. So what we're dealing with here is Android 4.4.2 with Zen UI on top, and what Zen UI means, it's a minimalistic and flat interface that you can see highlighted by these beautiful new icons and fonts. This is an example, those fonts here, the fonts associated to the new apps, and if you saw our reviews of the latest ASUS tablets, you already know Zen UI. The icons are good looking, there's no gloss, we got new icons, new fonts, and even new widgets. Some of them are shown right here. Just look at how minimalistic this one is, the What's Next widget, and a ton of them are also pretty good looking. This minimalism and the new design direction can be seen in the drop down area as well for toggles and such. And there are two aspects here. There is the notification aspect. You can see your emails, your app notifications, and other stuff like that, and you can see your toggles that include RAM boost, quick boost for the memory of the device, and we got a calculator shortcut, we got a quick memo toggle, and we have audio wizard available a tap away. And we also have the usual connectivity toggles like Wi-Fi, we have airplane mode, GPS, mobile data, then there's reading mode, play to, and other things. Moving on to the settings area, there are more interesting things here. You just saw the dual SIM card settings. We also have call settings where you can find the do not disturb feature that for some reason seems to give out a slight force close. And then we got the ASUS customized settings. Here you can assign a screenshot feature to the recent apps key. You can choose the screenshot file format, and you can enable the ASUS cover accessory. Other options here include lock screen. You can choose to give quick access to certain apps from the lock screen, view the What's Next widget, enable widgets, or instantly trigger the camera from the lock screen. And by the way, this is the lock screen. These are the apps you can quick access now, and this is the what's happening feature. And as I said, we have the do it later, and we also have the what's next, and one of these aspects is shown right on the lock screen. So we have a birthday coming up, and you'll be let know about that right here. We also have the weather, the time, and these three apps that are quickly accessible with shortcuts. Okay, now let's go to the apps area and see what pre-installed apps ASUS has ready for us. We got the usual Amazon Kindle for people who still read books nowadays in digital format. We got Audio Wizard to tweak your audio experience. And next up, there is Aware Hub. That's very interesting. This one is a bunch of settings and actions that are contextual. So we have phone control by gesture, we have environment gestures, so we have an environment identifier. If you go into the range of a certain router you'll trigger the connection. And we also have security options. We have ones that depend on the position. So if you reach a certain area of the map, you trigger a certain action, or you can build your own scenario with this Aware Hub. I've seen similar technologies on Motorola devices, so this one is a pretty cool feature. We got a calculator, the calendar here, also with a minimalistic UI and adopting the new Zen UI traits. We have contacts, we have the data transfer. If you have an older device and you bought this new one, you may want to transfer your data. Next up, there is the do it later concept. It's basically a to-do list with tasks, with a bunch of color-coded notes, summary, reminders, and due dates. Then there's the Google Drive, Dropbox, email, Facebook file manager, pretty straightforward, intuitive interface. Then there's Flipboard. With a slight bit of lag, as you just saw, for some reason. Okay, let's go forward to the other applications. We got Gmail, we got the Play Suite, we got Hangouts and Google Maps. That should be working fine. So the app list goes on even further with the mirror, messaging, music player, my ASUS. It allows you to search the latest ASUS product information, contact a hotline, watch product videos, and go to the Facebook fan page for ASUS. Okay, then we got Omelet Chat. That's a third-party application that allows you to chat with people. And then there's a series of link applications. There's Party Link that allows you to connect to nearby devices and share pics. There's PC Link that allows you to connect to a PC via USB and mirror what's on the screen right now. Then there is the Play Suite, Play Store, Power Saver, Quick Memo that allows you to input stuff either by drawing the letters, simply writing with the keyboard, using a bunch of varied colors to draw your letters, and then color codes for your notes, delete, share or pin. And then there's the remote link. This one turns your device into a remote for the PC, so you can control it from the distance. It's actually pretty useful. There's a setup wizard, and then there's share link. This one allows you to pair with a nearby device and quickly share files without the need of Wi-Fi or mobile connection. We got a sound recorder, we got ASUS Story that creates collage. We've known this application for quite a while, so we're familiar with it. You choose a selection of photos and create a nifty collage with a few settings. Then there's Supernote. In Supernote you have a lot of settings. You can either draw stuff, write letters, use the keyboard, start messing around with symbols, brushes, all sort of brush strokes with various sizes, various colors, various hues. You can also erase what you've drawn on the screen, write on top of it, or even add new stuff. You can save page, remove page, bookmark, read later, and there are even some settings like input, recognition speed, and reading mode. And then you can add into the mix audio recordings, video, text files, timestamps, stamps, or even shapes. So this is basically a simplified rival for Samsung's S Note. And finally, we've got weather. We got ASUS Web Storage. That's the cloud solution for storing stuff and even to do some on-the-go editing. And we got what's next. This one is shown as a widget earlier on the screen with settings here. You can get reminders, choose a ringtone, vibrate, location reminder. It's basically a collection of alerts, and you have alerts in advance for what's coming in the calendar, alerts for missed texts, emails, and cards associated to it, so you know everything that's coming or that's catching up to you. Finally, there's Zen UI for your magazine reading needs. Okay, now it's the end of the review. This is the brand new ASUS FonePad 7 and it's time for the verdict. Okay, so now it's time for the pros and cons. This one is a dual SIM tablet, which is always a pro. It has a good price, it's priced below $200. It has powerful hardware, able to run any game on the market. It has a 64-bit CPU, good audio from these dual stereo speakers, a ton of camera features and options. It can run any new game, it has no lag, and it even bundles some productivity features. Those are the pros. And now the cons, it's not a very bright screen, as I mentioned before. It's decent, it's good for viewing movies and playing games, but it could be brighter. It's a fingerprint magnet, the front side. It takes long to charge the device, about 3 hours 25 minutes. It has weak video capture. It gets slightly overheated at the back, and it's bloatware-ish, so to say. Usually ASUS didn't bundle too many apps, they only bundled the necessary, and now they've gone a bit Samsung on us and included too many apps, at least in this version of the tablet. However, it's still a very good device. We give it an 8.9 out of 10 for design, a 9.2 out of 10 for the hardware, and finally a 9.5 out of 10 for operating system and user interface. The final grade is 9.2 out of 10, and this is a pretty big upgrade from its predecessor. I would say this is actually the perfect back-to-school tablet since we're approaching that time period. So Tablet-News.com give this model a 9.2 out of 10. Bye bye.